Now, the countdown is well underway for the biggest test of the Prime Minister's term in office as she tries to persuade MPs to vote in favour of a Brexit deal.
Well, we're delighted to say that ahead of 5 days of debate, which starts tomorrow, Mrs May has found time to join us on the sofa. Welcome, Prime Minister.
Welcome.
You must be knackered.
You must be.
Well, look, it is a tough time. It's a difficult time. There's been awful lot of work's had to go into this. But I always think the key thing is just keep a focus on what the end point is, and the end point is actually getting a good deal through for the UK and delivering on what people voted for, and that's what drives me.
It looks like the end point is disaster.
No, the end point is us leaving the European Union with a good deal that will be good for people's jobs and good for our future as a country. That's what I'm focusing on. That's what this deal is about, that Parliament's going to be voting on. It's going to be talking about it, as you've just said, for the next 5 days in the House of Commons. MPs will be looking at it, thinking about it. But at the end of the line, it's, I think, about holding our nerve and getting this over the line so we can deliver on Brexit and people can have that better future.
So your draft agreement is 585 pages long. Most of our viewers won't have had time to read all of that. Can you summarise it? What are the top lines? What have you got for us in that deal?
Yeah, actually, there's 2 bits to the deal. So you're absolutely right, Michelle. The withdrawal agreement's 585 pages. That's the leaving bit. That's the legal text about what happens as we leave. And then there's the other bit, which is called the political declaration. That's about the future. Now, the leaving bit, the withdrawal agreement, is about that whole process of how we disentangle ourselves from an organisation we've been part of for 45 years. And it's about important things like, if you're working for a company here in the UK who's got a contract with a country that's in the European Union, what happens when we leave? That will have been drawn up under current EU laws. What happens to that contract? What happens to your job? That's the sort of thing that we've been negotiating in the leaving bit. But the future bit, the political declaration, is about what people voted for. It's about what happens to the UK when we leave the EU.
Right, so the bottom line there is, so if you were to come back from Brussels and sit down with us and say, right, OK, this is what I've got you. What have you got us? Because there isn't a great deal of clarity. Once again, there's never been any clarity on this. It's a terribly confusing issue. So what have you won that we didn't have before?
What I've got is a deal that delivers on what people voted for, which is we end free movement, so we control who comes to our country, we control our borders. We will stop sending vast sums of money to the EU every year. We'll be able to put that money into what matters to us, like our schools and hospitals. And we'll end the jurisdiction of the European Court. We'll make our laws, and those will be judged in our courts and not in a European court. But we've also done a good trade deal with the EU. Now, why is that important? It's important because people's jobs here in the UK, a lot of people's jobs here in the UK, depend on that trading relationship with the European Union. There's people in the car industry, for example, these supply chains just in time. Really important that we're able to protect those jobs for the future. That's what the deal does.
Will we be better off under your deal? Will house prices go up or down? Will fuel costs go up or down? Will we be better off?
Well, I believe that we can do this thing about, a lot of people ask this question, will we be better off? I believe we can be better off. But it's not just about the deal. The deal's an important part of that. But actually, our future, jobs for the future, people's wages growing, will be about decisions that we make here in the UK.
The British public cast their vote, and the slight majority said that's it. We want to leave. So, is the deal that you've negotiated better than what we had when we were in the European Union?
Well, it's different from what we had when we were in the European Union.
Are we going to be better off?
We can be better off.
What will we be?
Well, that's up to us. I think that's the important thing. See, sometimes people say, well, it's the deal that delivers being better off or not. But actually, what delivers us being better off is what we here in the UK do. Now, it's going to be different from being in the EU. It is a different relationship, but that's what people voted for. People wanted to come out, wanted to feel that we were more independent, that we could take more decisions for ourselves. And that's what the deal delivers. It delivers on, end of free movement, as I say. We'll take control of our borders, our money and our laws, but we're doing it in a way that means that we can protect people's jobs here and protect people's security. People don't often focus on the security angle, but are continuing to be able to work, police forces across with the other countries in Europe. This matters to people as well.
Jeremy Corbyn was here last week and he sat where you're sitting now and said that you'd gone into these negotiations and you were aggressive when you started. He would have run those negotiations differently. He said that you went in saying that you would do trade deals with America and elsewhere and essentially put their backs up. So could you have got... He says he could have got a better deal. He said if he was Prime Minister now, he'd go over there and he'd get a better deal.
Well, what Jeremy Corbyn has said, as I understand, and so when he was sitting here, is he's just going to vote against this deal regardless. He said that before. Whatever deal I came back with, he said he was going to vote against. Now, that's not in the national interest. That's not putting people and their jobs first. Actually, no, we do want to do those trade deals with America and other countries because that's what... It's part of you were asking about being better off, actually being able to expand our economy, increase the number of jobs here, get more higher paid jobs here. That's about doing those trade deals as well. And I've just come back yesterday from a couple of days down in Argentina where for the G20 meeting, but with other world leaders. And I was talking to a number of them about doing those trade deals. And they're really keen to do those trade deals with us in the UK. And that's good for us. It's good for people's future.
However, it would appear, almost certain that you are going to get voted down. It's not going to happen. All this hard work is going for nothing.
Well, lots of people are making sort of claims about what's going to happen in the vote. Over the next five days that Parliament will be debating this, MPs have a chance to really look at this deal, to ask questions about it, to obviously discuss it, to consider it. When we come to the vote, what I hope MPs will do is, first of all, put the national interest first. I think that's important. I hope they'll recognise that I think we've got a duty to do what people asked us to do, i.e. to leave the European Union, but that this is a deal that does it in a way that does look after people, does look after people's security and jobs for the future. I think what I would say to MPs is we need to hold our nerve. This has been it's a long negotiation. It has been a tough negotiation.
Is that why you're sitting here? You're on our side, and we're very grateful that you are, by the way.
Yeah.
But you are sitting... You
asked me, I think.
Well, I know we asked you, and you said yes, but you haven't said yes to very many others, and you're sitting on our sofa now. Is this a way to get through to those MPs who look like they're going to vote against this deal?
Well, I think that what's important...
Because we haven't got a vote.
We don't get...
You don't. But actually, what people think about this obviously is important. And I'll just tell you, yesterday in my constituency in a village called Twyford, I was switching on the Christmas tree lights. And a woman came up to me and she said, when you say you want to get this done, you're speaking for me. And I think that's important because for us as members of Parliament, it's not all about what we think. It's actually about what we're doing for people.
Do you think Theresa May's Brexit agreement is a good deal for the country? We asked this morning. 14% said yes, 86% said no. So you want, I'm assuming, you're sitting here, which we're grateful, trying to persuade those MPs who'll be watching it to see what you've got to say. We don't get a vote, and so maybe you are trying to encourage the British public to get behind you and to rally with you for their local MPs. But only 14% say it's a good deal.
Well, I think it's not just about... Look, this is an important moment in our country's history, actually. This will determine our future. It's about our own decisions, as I said earlier when you were asking me, but it's a really important moment. And I think it's right that I'm here, that I've been doing other things. I was around the country. I was in Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales last week, talking to business employers, talking to farmers, hearing from people, talking to young people. The overwhelming message I've been getting from people is that people just want us to get on with it and deliver this. And I think that's important for us. But I think it's right that I'm out and about and talking to people about it because it's such an important moment.
If it doesn't get voted in, what happens? What happens next? What happens for you? What happens? Do you resign? What happens moving forward if it doesn't happen?
Well, I'm focusing on getting that vote and getting the vote over the line. And I'm focusing on... Because this is, as I say, it's an important moment in our history. And this is not a sort of oh, well, it's just any old vote. Actually, this is about delivering for what people voted for when they voted in that referendum to leave the EU. And I think that's important for us as politicians to remember that.
Absolutely. But I think that, you know, we as a country, we've listened to this bluster for ages now, and we've listened to on all sides. The facts have been incredibly difficult to ascertain.
Overwhelming.
Would it just not be better to give us another vote? Although Michael Gove did say over the weekend something along the lines of there's no point having another vote because that means you were too dumb to know what you were voting for in the first place.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's... Look, people are talking about a second vote when we haven't even delivered on the first vote. And I think we need to deliver on the first vote.
So under your leadership, no second vote?
No, I think this is a really important point because we asked people to vote. We said, please decide whether we should leave or remain. People voted to leave. And I think there's a sort of democratic duty on us as politicians, having had that referendum and having said to people, it is your choice to actually deliver on it. So let's deliver on the first vote. You know, lots of people are talking about a second vote. Let's deliver on the first vote.
Thank you for that, because that's very clear.
Yeah.
So no under your premiership. What about if this fails? What about if you don't? And I know, yes, you're going to say, this is what I'm working towards, I want to get this through, I'll do everything I can to get it through. If you don't, and we all want to know, what happens to us? What happens to us? What happens to you? What will happen?
Well, that's what's clear in the negotiations is this is the deal. There isn't a sort of, oh, well, go back and spend another 6 months and come back with something different. This is the deal. And this is one of the points, I think one of the points that you were just quoting Michael Gove, that Michael also made over the weekend was, you know, it's this deal or no deal, or
Jeremy Corbyn seems to think he can go back and get a better one.
No, the message has been very clear. This is the deal. Look, this has taken 18 months of negotiation. So I say there's two bits to it. And on the second bit, the future bit, there's still some negotiation to do for legal reasons and so forth. But that's what I think... There's been a lot of controversy about the leaving bit, but actually what is going to deliver for people is the future.
What happens to you if they vote you down? What happens to you? The next day, what will you be saying? What will you be doing? Well, look, still Prime Minister?
I'm very clear that I've got a duty as Prime Minister to deliver on what people voted for.
If it doesn't happen?
I've got a duty to deliver...
But if you don't?
I've got to... Just let me finish my sentence,
I know what you're
Philip.
going to say, I know what you're going to say.
Oh, well, why do you ask me the question if you know what I'm going to say?
I know what you're going to say. You have a duty to deliver it. You're going to work very hard to deliver it. I'm going to say if you don't deliver it, my question was, what happens? Do you resign?
Well, formally, what happens if the vote doesn't go through is government has to come back within a certain period of time to Parliament and say what the next step is. But I'm focusing on getting that vote through. And I think, as you know, there's going to be a lot of debate. There'll be lots of quotes, there'll be lots of things being said about this over the next few days. When it actually comes to it, it's a key moment of decision for MPs about do we want to ensure that we leave the European Union.
But what about you, personally, though? Because obviously this is a lot. Does your husband, Philip, ever just say, let them do it, just... Let's go on holiday. Let's, you know, it's a lot. What about the strain on you? Well,
it is tough. I mean, sometimes politics. Look, in any job, there are times when it's really tough and you have to work through it. And in politics, it's the same. But no, I mean, Philip is a huge support to me, and you know, he says that I must do what I believe to be right. And what I believe to be right at the moment is saying it's in our interest as a country, it's in the interests of people watching this programme, it's in the interests of people generally, for us to get this deal through, and let's move on to the future. Let's move on to being able to make those decisions. You know, as a government, we've been doing other things too. We're spending a lot of time on Brexit.
That's
I think we want to get on
a lot of people as well, aren't they? Saying that you've spent so much time on this, that your eye has been totally off the ball on everything else, so we're paralysed as a country until you get this sorted out, because you've got to concentrate. You have been concentrating. And you've got an enormous amount of respect for how hard you've worked for people who don't even vote for you. But nevertheless, you know, are you paralysed here and focusing just on one thing?
Well, we're not focused just on one thing. You know, we have, for example, we've made the announcement about the huge amounts of extra money we're going to put in the health service and the long-term plan we want for the NHS to make sure it's sustainable, people have that confidence for the future of the NHS. But obviously a lot of time has been spent on Brexit, and I think what I want to do is an awful lot more than I want to do, and in other areas. And I think once we get this, let's get this over the line, then we can put that greater focus on those other issues too.
What about the TV debate, here or BBC?
Well, you know, first of all, I'm keen to have a head-to-head with Jeremy Corbyn, and I hope that this actually goes through. There's discussions about exactly where it's going to be, but I think
he wants a head-to-head on ITV. And there's a panel on the BBC. Which do you prefer?
Well, I've said there are variations of this, but I think he said he wanted to be on ITV so he could watch the final of I'm a Celebrity.
He wants to be home in time for that.
He wants to be home in time for that. Actually, I think his proposal meant that I'd miss Strictly. And I have to say, hate to say this on ITV, but I'm a bit of a Strictly fan, so...
Which channel are you going to be on?
That's being worked out.
And in 2 weeks' time, will you be booking a holiday? Do you think you'll still have a job in 2 weeks' time?
I will still have a job in 2 weeks' time.
Definitely?
And my job is making sure that we do what the public asked us to. We leave the EU, but we do it in a way that's good for them.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you. Thank you.